6 degrees Celsius in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo, marking it 28 degrees here in Lagos, November 25. It's Tuesday morning. You're welcome to the show. Quite a lot packed in this one day, Maupe, isn't it?
Indeed, quite a lot is happening in the day. But just before we get to what is happening today, would also like to, keep count on certain events that are still happening, and we believe these events require the government at the center in particular. But right now, we're keeping count on how many days it is since the girls from the school in Kebbi, from the government secondary school in Kebbi, were taken from their dormitories. We're keeping count on how long it's going to take the government to rescue those girls. It's forming a huge part of our discussions this morning, Ayo. But yes, it is now, how many days now? It is now day 9 days since those girls were taken. We're also keeping count on the doctor strike. As we speak, the National Association of Resident Doctors have been on strike, and it's day 25 of their strike. We know that the coordinating minister of health has been doing quite a lot, meeting with investors, making sure that we're signing MOUs for the production of medicine, having discussions on the path forward. But there can be no path forward, if the people who are to implement this path forward are not looked after. So there has to be a critical discussion on what is happening with the doctors in our tertiary institutions. What is happening with the doctors working under the employment of the federal government, particularly residents, the National Association of Resident Doctors. And we also understand that at some point, Joe Hesso was thinking of joining that strike. We sincerely hope that that will not be the case. But certainly, attention needs to be paid, because we know that brain drain is one of the huge problems that we face. Well, as I did say, and I did highlight, we have quite a lot packed in for you today. And today we know that the National Union of Teachers will be meeting, because we know that now a number of schools have now been shut down. A force majeure of sorts in education is being declared by state governments across different parts of the country. In Niger State, we understand that schools have been shut down. In Kwara State, schools have been shut down. In Kebbi, that is being contemplated. I mean, certainly in the school where girls were taken from, it will be impossible to continue education in that institution for now. So it would appear that the force majeure has been declared somewhat. In Bauchi, we also understand that some schools have been shut down as well. And this certainly will be of concern to the National Union of Teachers. Ayo.
Well, most certainly. Well, then there is also the call to bar by, lawyers. How that is going to play out, I guess we're going to have to wait to see. It's a regular feature in the life and times of the legal practice in Nigeria. So I guess we'll see how that plays out in the coming days, Maupe.
Abuja is usually agog on days like that, and I would also be advising people who are moving about, about this time in the morning till, say, about 12 noon, around the area where the body of benches is located, close to the Jahi area and Ring Road 2. You might find that traffic might be busy, but thankfully we always have traffic men on duty doing a very diligent job. So just to let you know that this will be happening in Abuja today. We also will be expecting the CBN to hold its Monetary Policy Committee meeting about 12 noon today. That will be happening right here in the Federal Capital Territory, as well as the swearing in of a resident electoral commissioner, which will be happening in INEC. And we know that this discussion is usually not so much about the swearing in, but the questions that journalists will be hoping that they will be able to ask their INEC chairman, should he give room for them. For instance, they'll want to know, you know, what is INEC's stance on the current imbroglio within the PDP? The commission does have regulatory oversight over political parties, so they will be hoping that Professor Amupiton will be speaking on some of these developments that have now occurred. Don't forget that the PDP had a convention. There was also a brawl that has now led to the shutting down of the Wadata Plaza. And the talks around opening it or not, but we know that the police has now taken control of the particular structure. And I'm sure the journalists who will be going for the commissioning today will be looking at whether or not INEC will be speaking on the current situation of affairs within the People's Democratic Party. Ayo, quite a lot to look at this today, but the main thing we're looking at this morning for you is the development within Kebbi State. The governor hasn't ceased speaking since that particular kidnapping occurred of the children in the government secondary school. Those 25 girls taken from Maga local government area. And he says, and he made a revelation saying that there was a withdrawal of troops from that area before those girls were taken. The DHQ over the weekend released a statement saying that they acknowledge and they have seen this particular statement of the governor, and that they will be investigating those claims. We're waiting very patiently because some people say, how long does it take to investigate claims? Is to know whether there were troops there. If there were troops there, where were they stationed? At what point did they withdraw? Did they withdraw at any point? Those are questions that shouldn't take too long to answer. But the governor is insistent on reiterating his statement. He made that statement again when the Speaker of the House of Reps paid him a visit to commiserate with him over the incident that happened in his state. Take a listen.
Honorable Tajuddin Abbas is leading members of the Green Chamber to commiserate with the Kebbi State government over the abduction of schoolgirls in Maga local government area of the state. In his message, Speaker Abbas said the House strongly condemned the incident and appealed to Governor Idris to immortalize the late Vice Principal by naming the school after him. While praying for the safe return of the abducted girls, the Speaker announced a donation of 20 million naira to the family of the late Vice Principal and 10 million naira to the family of the late watchman, who was also killed.
This is somebody that has actually died in active service. We want to seize this opportunity to pray for him, for Almighty Allah to grant him eternal Jannah Firdausi. And we want to also implore His Excellency to serve an example. Honor him. If the school where this incident took place does not have a name, we want to urge and plead to you to name that institution after this man.
Responding, Governor Idris expressed appreciation for the visit and reiterated that he's still expecting answers from the military regarding the security lapses that allowed the abduction of the schoolgirls. The governor noted that he's aware his earlier revelations did not go down well with some individuals and emphasized that as a representative of the people, he has a responsibility to explain the lapses that occurred, especially as the government has not relented in supporting security agencies operating in the states.
Whether somebody liked it or not, what has happened has left us as Kebbi State people to ask questions. But people doesn't want this my statement, but I'll continue to say it as a leader. I'm thinking enemies are working to truncate this democracy. If we continue this way, it's only God knows where we're heading to. Federal government must review its defense attitude.
The governor accepted the Speaker's request and promised to renew the government's girls' comprehensive secondary school, Maga, after the late Vice Principal, Malam Hassan Mukuku.
Well, that's our conversation this morning, among a number of other issues to take on with our guest in the studio this morning, who is a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist, Alfred Ononugo. He joins us here in the studio. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Ayo. It's my pleasure to be here. And good morning, Nigerians.
You've heard all kinds of comments about this whole issue, particularly the ones that happen almost like everything happened in a week in Kebbi, in Niger, in Kwara, all of that just seems to have surged in at once. And we've also heard the governor of Borno State making the statement that this resurgence seems to be something real. What do you make of it? Is it that we let down our guards at some point, or is it that the insecurity issue just went latent and are now becoming important again?
Well, let me first appreciate the effort of the Nigerian soldiers and the military generally, the security establishments for their efforts. I want to thank them, and particularly those who have paid the ultimate price. We share in your pains at this moment. And I also want to appreciate every Nigerian for their prayers and, of course, remaining positive. And I think I'm one of those who want to remain positive. It's been long in coming. It's expected that if the appropriate steps were not taken, we will get to this point. And probably it could get worse, except that I'm beginning to see international intervention, which had not been so vocal, which has not been so obvious, beginning to weigh in. And that's a very interesting aspect to the whole development. And for that to get to this point, it shows you that there are greater schemes that are yet to be played out on both sides. What's happened in our country happens every day, and I think the involvement of the United States probably gave it more light and put it on the headlines of most newspapers and the media, and that is also generating its own attention and traction. But I think we shouldn't have gotten here.
It goes back to the same question. Did we drop the guard at some point, or it's just a wave? Because there are those who are saying, look, we don't hear of these insecurity issues during elections, or when the general elections are closed, or whenever there is going to be an election. As a matter of fact, all of the areas that are where these insecurity issues take place, they usually have senators representing them. They have chairmen of local government. They have House of Reps members representing them. How can we get results from elections there? I don't remember, unless you want to tell me otherwise, INEC coming out to say, because of insecurity in social parts, except on very, very rare cases, that we weren't able to get, voting materials there, and consequently we didn't have results. Is there a dynamic at play here?
Definitely. And even from the trends, you will see that there's a political angle to this whole crisis. There's the economic, and of course there's the social and religious. So it's divided in parts. It depends on which part of the country you're coming from and who are the people, who are the players. I want to be careful because of the state of the nation to avoid incitement, because that's where most people are now, pointing fingers. Everybody wants to prove that they have done their best. Politicians come promising us heaven and earth. And like a popular author said, politicians think about the next election, but leaders think about the next generation. It clearly shows that we've not articulated the place of the next generation in our political thinking. There should be a marriage between the two, and one should drive the other. Thinking about the safety of the nation should precede political gains. We've had challenge with establishing our patriotic positions as a nation. That's why you see ethnicity playing a lot of game. You see religion contesting for recognition and place in our national lives. These are red flags. These are dangerous red flags when we begin to push narratives like religion, ethnicity, and of course, wealth without source. These are red flags. And when you have these things become prominent, the fact remains that the beneficiaries will grow weaker, and there will be incapable of even determining their destiny and their future. So they become vulnerable and ready and willing tools for anybody, whether they are non-state actors or state actors, they can be employed. And even when the state begins to engage the non-state actors, in their developmental or whatever plans, these are dangerous red flags, and they are flying every day. So how we got here shouldn't be a surprise.
Tell us the history, or rather the sources of these narratives. Now, you've quoted the fact that the religious narratives is one that is unhealthy and a red flag. But then you've also said that there are significant political influence and consideration in all of these insecurity issues that we're talking about. Now, it is also been seen, in our social life, general knowledge, that sometimes some of these narratives come from politicians, and when they make these statements, it's not it's the remote people, the people in the localities that just take on these words and one way or the other run with them. Another narrative that is out there is that we have had cases in this country where serving governors went and sat and had conversations with these non-state actors, all in the interest of whatever. We've also heard narratives from a sitting governor in Nigeria saying, this is why I had to make peace with bandits. And meanwhile, the military has reiterated its stand that this is not a healthy trend. Now, how do we manage these narratives so we have one cohesive one and we all join together and face one direction in dealing with these issues? Because it will seem like, be it political, economic, social, whatever, we are not all united in this fight against insecurity.
Well, let me make it clear here. The Bible that guides the existence of Nigeria is the Nigerian Constitution. And if we have to look at the Nigerian Constitution, clearly, the position and roles of every leader and every citizen is clearly enshrined in the Constitution. And when political players begin to tinker, manipulate, and distort these documents, they provide a safe haven for themselves to infringe on the privileges of the citizenry and go undetected or unprosecuted. And that's a very serious concern. Now, a sitting governor is merely a politician. And basically what they want to do is to sustain their popularity among the people, give the impression that they are serving the interests of the people, while breaching the SOP, the standard operational procedure of engaging with criminals. The law is so clear on what constitutes a crime. And when you break the law, there is a relevant arm of the Constitution that states who should be involved. Such people should be apprehended by the security, charged to a court of competent jurisdiction, tried, and whatever the court decides should be the punishment should be meted. This should be the cycle. Now, when people who are politically exposed and privileged begin to break this process, they are fertilizing the machineries of threats that we are suffering from. So they've kind of pushed it aside. The governor has no right, on whatever grounds, to go and be negotiating on behalf of Nigerians. He's not the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's a very big error on the part of the governors. As much as they are the chief security officers of their states, we have a sitting president. We have the National Security Advisor. We have other offices that are assigned and paid by taxpayers to support and help the president in dealing with security matters. And the governors are part of that team because they're also part of the National Executive Council. One expects that there should be a synergy between the activities of the governor or governors and the presidency. There should also be an understanding between the three arms of the government, which is the president, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. We are not seeing that cohesion. So it has given people the opportunity not only to manipulate the system, but to trample on the values of our national interest. And it is pushing us every day towards disaster.
So many issues to raise about this, and I'm sure we'll be going to some of the people in those communities shortly, but Malkwe has one or two questions for you before we do that. Malkwe, go ahead.
Okay, well, just before I do that, Ayo, one of our guests is already online for us, and he joins us virtually. I think it's important we go there so we don't lose our guest. Mr. Abdurrahman Manga is the secretary of Zuru local government area in Kebbi State, and he joins us virtually all the way from Kebbi. It's good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for your patience this morning, and commiserations with you on the recent happenings in Kebbi State. It is truly troubling to see that those young girls were taken. What is the current situation of things? We've seen visitations by high-profile individuals to Kebbi State, led by none other than the vice president himself, who came to see the governor. But have there been visitations to that particular local government with a view to ascertaining what truly transpired in your local government area the night that those girls were taken?
Yeah, good morning. I want to tell you that the Kebbi State is really in a very bad shape as we speak, because this is about the first time we have such a kind of a situation where they come in to kidnap our children and school children and leave. And the governor was not actually in town. He was in Abuja. He had to cut his engagement to come back to Kebbi State. He spent the night in Maga, where the children were abducted. And he was very, very disturbed. And as I speak, this is the first time I've seen my governor in this kind of situation. And he has been doing all he can to see that these children are back to their homes, because his security is one of his top priorities. And unfortunately, this intrusion from Zamfara, from Niger Republic, is really causing a lot of mayhem to the state. Because as we know, Kebbi State is one of the most peaceful states in the country. So this is actually hitting us hard, because we're just seeing something new in our settings. But already all machineries have been put in place to ensure that these girls are rescued and brought back to Kebbi. Because as we speak, the president has given a marching order to the State Minister for Defense, and already he's in Kebbi, and they have been always in a closed-door meeting, seeing how they can be able to sort this matter out.
All right, and it's interesting that the Minister of State for Defense is actually from Zamfara. But tell us, as the secretary to the local government, were there, because we have heard all manner of things. We've heard that there was intelligence, that these people were gathering. We've heard that, troops, and this came from your governor. He said that troops around the area were withdrawn a few minutes or maybe less than an hour before that attack took place. As somebody who is a local authority on the ground, can you give us your own account of events of that night?
Well, as we rightly said, there was an information, or there was intelligence gathering that they are likely going to strike that school. And the governor did all he can to mobilize soldiers to the school, and they've been there for about up to 3 o'clock a.m. And after they withdrew around 3 something, and this bandits struck around 4 something. So the question is, what happened? Why were they not where they were told that they're likely going to be there's going to be attack? And that remains a very serious question that is yet unanswered. And we are all worried, and His Excellency is worried, because he has mobilized them, and they have been there, and with the assurance that whatever it is, at least the school is under very good protection, only to see that there was a withdrawal from the school, and before the stroke, and went away with about 25 or 26, and we had 2 that escaped. And it's really disturbing, and we are worried, and the governor is really, really disappointed, despite all efforts by the government to support the military in giving all that is needed to ensure that adequate security is given to that school.
Does your community have local vigilantes?
Yes, they do. And I assure you, immediately that happened, both the militaries and the soldiers, when the chief of army staff came, he gave them a marching order, and they've been in the bush trying to see how they can locate the bandits. So it has not been easy for the state. The state has been down. The only priority the governor has given is security and ensure that these girls are brought back. And like yesterday, we have about 1,000 vigilantes that were gathered in the state capital to ensure that they add more to the ones that are already there to see how these girls can be actually traced.
Well, while we're waiting for good news on that, we know that Kebbi has more than one school. So there are questions as to what is the current state of all the other schools now. Has the governor declared that schools be closed, or are schools still in session as we speak?
No, almost immediately after that happened, he had to shut down all schools to ensure that such a thing never occurred, even though we had issues in Niger, in Kwara, and some parts of Bauchi, but all the schools in Kebbi State, as I speak to you, are presently closed down to ensure that nothing of such is happening or has happened again, pending the time this issue or this situation is being put back into control.
So what is the current situation now in that particular local government? I imagine that parents are still quite anxious, waiting for any news.
Yes.
Has the state government been able to set up perhaps a resource center for the parents who will be waiting for any news for their children?
As we speak, the governor is in touch with the parents, and a committee has been set to ensure that they have very good link with the parents, and we'll be giving them updates as events unfold. And so far, progresses have been made. We only hope that in due course, this issue will be resolved. You know, issues like this are not issues of security, are not issues that you go ahead to say this is what are the advancements gotten, and these are the progress made. We just hope that these children are safely brought back to their respective homes. But I want to assure you, the governor is hell on it, and with God's willing, these children will be rescued.
Well, a lot of people are concerned about, they know that right now the government has taken steps to try and reassure parents, and maybe the shutdown of schools is more about reassuring parents than anything else. But they know that schools cannot be shut down forever. So are there also, conversations on what needs to happen to make sure that schools are safe moving forward, from this particular incident, especially when these girls are returned?
God's willing. Before now, I knew that most of our schools have securities in the schools. We have them all over. Those were like the Dankosabu area where this issue is happening. We knew that there were a lot of securities in the school. I think there was just maybe, that's the question we still want to know what happened, because we know that the schools in Riba, the schools in Dankosabu, the schools in Bena all have security checks around the school to ensure that they don't go into the schools. But for that of Maga is why the governor is so worried, and all logistics, all support, all that is needed to be given by the government has been made available. Only that the withdrawal is still a question that why did they withdraw? And why were they, just 45 minutes after their withdrawal, such an act took place? And that is the question that we are all disturbed about. What happened and how did it happen? But I want to assure you that while this is ongoing, I'm sure securities will be intensified in all the schools that are prompt areas, so that students will resume back to school. But as it is, the priority of the government is to ensure that these 24 children are brought back to their homes.
Well, you've raised that question again. The Defense Headquarters released a statement over the weekend acknowledging that particular concern raised by the governor and saying that they were going to be investigating. Did you find that statement reassuring?
Yes, definitely. Not only the reassuring, the defense have also advanced so many security operatives to do the needful. And I told you that security matters are not security. I don't think that you go into the TV stations or the radio stations to say this is the level of progress achieved. But we are hopeful that very soon the state government is going to get a very commendable result as far as this issue is concerned.
All right, Mr. Manga, we certainly will hope to hook up with you again as soon as we are able to, as soon as there's progress, you know, in the situation in Kebbi. We're sincerely hoping and praying for the safe return of the girls from the government secondary school in your state, not just them alone, but also for the children who were taken from St. Mary's Catholic School in Niger State as well. So, we hope that we'll be able to speak with you very soon. And again, our commiserations to you and the people of Kebbi State. And hopefully the girls will be back home soon. We have to thank you for your time with us this morning. Mr. Abdurrahman Manga is the Secretary of Zuru Local Government Area in Kebbi State, and he's joined us virtually. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll still be speaking with Mr. Ononubo, who is a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist. In just a moment, please stay with us.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. You are still on Sunrise Daily. Well, Mr. Ononubo is still here with us. You heard the man from Kebbi State, and what do you make of all of that?
Well, I would always say, he's a politician, and what he has told us is what they are trying to do to remedy the damage or the situation on hand, and I appreciate their efforts. However, I think we should go beyond just rescuing these children. These kidnaps had happened too frequently across the country that one should ask, why haven't we come up with a strategy to checkmate such crimes being committed against our children? Abductions have happened in Kaduna, in Kebbi, Borno, and it's continued. Why haven't we had a strategy to ensure that these activities ceases to happen? That should preoccupy the think tank team of the government, because if we don't have a way of capturing the crime culture around us, we will not be able to manage the manifestation of criminals or crimes in our culture. We should be able to have a track. We should be able to document. And these are not rocket science. They are easy to handle, and they are easy to capacity to develop within our criminal justice administration system and our communities.
Do we have a template? I ask that because we are not hearing about criminality, armed robbery, and all those things for the first time. I grew up in Lagos, and if there is anything that I heard about Lagos in the area of criminality, even under the military, was a tremendous, humongous, abysmal, spate of armed robbery over the years, to the level of legendary robbers, if I can use that term, And Anini was just one. There was another one before him called Oyenusi. There was Anini and a number of others like that. And it was, thank you. And a whole stream of stuff. But it will seem like all of that's suddenly gone under in Lagos. And from the military into this republic, it will seem like everything just kind of tapered down. Is there a template that was followed that could have been replicated? Or you think this is just something that is being supported by some forces that are known or unknown?
Well, I knew that years back, the security services were proactive, and they had an approach that was able to deter people from openly engaging in crime. However, the world have changed. We've gone into the digital age, poverty has increased, and the failure of governance to deliver dividends to the people has become a norm. Now, where do we get this right? We need to go back to the table. For instance, and I've championed this and spoken about it in forums, we don't have a central crime database. The police have records, the DSS have their records, but there's no central database. There's no one-stop clearance port where activities of Nigerians, whether they want to join the army or they want to be employed as housekeepers, you just check and be sure that you run a basic background check on these people. Even the politicians, many are in the representative offices just because they had access to money or powerful sponsors, not because they possess the credentials and credibility to occupy the offices they found themselves. That's one. Two, we've also used quota system to, push the country out of its track. When quota is enforced or whatever it is being used without merit, then we expose the safety of Nigerians to hazards and all kinds of danger. So these are issues. We need to have a central crime database. And how do we generate this? From basic reports. There are no communities in Nigeria that do not know those who are criminals in their community. Even those who are drug exposed or who are exposed to all forms of social, antisocial behaviors. So if we keep these records and it's accessible to the security agencies, to organizations, corporate body, when they're engaging people and they know your life has a history and there's a record somewhere, people will be careful in the associations they keep and in the activities. But when we don't have this track, we can't generate it. You go to police stations, you will go and check statements, even statements made by people. I often visit the Central Crime Registry at Alagbo in Ikoyi, and I realize that they are doing a lot, but it's not the capacity would want them. And without a central crime database, we cannot fight crime. We can't even identify the involvement, because if somebody commits crime in Lagos, he can move to Enugu or Owerri.
There are some who have cited examples like the US and some other, some other developed states in the world, saying that, for instance, with one number, you get the health history, social history, employment history, crime history, or whatever of any individual. Now, I remember that one of the things that was sold to Nigerians for getting the national identity number was that we'll be able to trace whoever is making calls wherever and all of that. On the one hand, do you think that could have addressed the issues you're raising now? On the other hand, was that initiative, did it even get off the ground in the first place?
Well, I knew there was an effort, and that initiative would have addressed so much, not just so many, so much of Nigeria's problems. Because a lot of, for instance, at some point, so shamefully too, the government was claiming that the attackers, the terrorists, were not Nigerians. Now, how did they cross our borders? Where did they settle? How did they integrate? They found their way all to our communities, Benue, Enugu, Kwara, Ogun State, and you keep counting. Secondly, with a national identity number, which unfortunately, because it's not been integrated to our security establishments and also our necessary establishments, I think the government needed to work more to make sure that the NIN project works, because that will give every individual an identification number that carries every history of your movement, of your activities, engagement, employment, and be able to detect early exposure to all manner of things, including our politically exposed people. A lot of them have histories and crime records, but how they were cleared to go and contest election, and every day we see on the media those who knew them, those who have their records, coming to the public to say this guy had a crime history. How did he end up becoming a public officer?
I guess, you know, the authorities are listening to you, and if you've been pushing it, maybe we will also get to that point at some point in our lives. Now, there are other issues that have been raised. On the one hand, there are those who have raised the issue of manpower, equipment, even funding. Now, we also hear the United States of America promising to provide support in fighting insecurity. From the initial threat to invade guns a-blazing to now offering support. What do you make of all of this?
As much as I appreciate the efforts of our international community friends to help us, you can't address insecurity where poverty is prevalent. It will not work. That's why we are beginning to suspect that there are moles in our Nigerian security establishments, because when people are not, when the welfare of the people are not guaranteed, you will find out that compromise and non-compliance will be very common. A lot of people cannot survive, so they are vulnerable. And once they get any graft, anything passed to them, they will want to give it because they expect more. So they are not doing it because they are patriotic. They are not doing it because they are unpatriotic. They are doing it because they want to survive. And I would have believed that our government, apart from the assistance we want to get to support and quell the activities of terrorists and bandits in Nigeria, we should begin to look at how to improve on the welfare of Nigerians, because it's affecting every institution. You walk into the police station, for instance, you see policemen sleeping on the floor. They don't have police facilities dignified enough to give them a place to rest. Even when they're on transit, on special duties, you need to think about the allowances of these people. For instance, before I came in here, I penned down on my record that an average public servant cannot own a house in Nigeria. Probably till their kingdom come. They can't buy a new car. These are things that tells you that the people own the place. But the political exposed people have it all. And how many are there in a country of 250 million? Possibly more than that. We have enough capacity. We have over 200, let me be fair, we have over 150 million youths in Nigeria that could be mobilized and given the opportunity to join the fight to keep Nigeria safe and secure. But we don't have them coming forward because they are grappling with the existence.
Well, at the end of the day, we have just one nation, and everyone just has to do what they have to do. Perhaps that's why we have Mr. Ibrahim Gaski with us. Malpe, please go ahead.
The Chairman Coalition of Kebbi CSOs. It's good to see you on our program this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. So I guess we can start by asking you, Mr. Ngaski, what exactly the civil society organizations in Kebbi are making of what has happened in the state?
Good morning, and good morning, Ms. Ogwen Yusuf. Basically, we, the civil society organization, first and foremost, we condemn the attack of these school children, and also we sympathize with the parent and the government of Kebbi State over the unfortunate incidents. And then secondly, we, the civil society organization, as I was saying, we condemn the attack, and then it's something that we feel could be avoided if serious measures being put in place, considering the previous experiences that we had in the state. So civil society organization, we condemn it in totality, and then we also sympathize to see that how government could avert reoccurrence of such incidents in our schools and communities.
What are some of the steps? Because I know that the job of civil society is to maintain advocacy and also to, hold government's feet to the fire in events like this. Even before this event occurred, did you have any premonition, or before now, had you taken up any issue with the Kebbi state government or perhaps the federal government with regards to safety of children in schools today?
Well, by the previous experience, civil society organization, we engage the state government in the areas of safe school initiatives, which is a federal government initiatives, and then Nigeria is a signatory to that. And then we see how these school initiatives, safe school initiative, being implemented across our schools, especially the boarding schools. And then schools that are prone to attack, we know them, and the government also knows those schools. So we try to see how we can bring synergy together to empower the schools management, the school-based management committees, and then the teachers and the students themselves on the safety. And then I think this has been consistently be done. And then along the line, the government was not very all that proactive to take these initiatives so important so that to avert or to avoid such an incident in our schools.
Well, we're waiting for a comprehensive investigation in that regard. It's really very disheartening to see what has now happened in Kebbi State. But I'd like to take you up on this statement released by Amnesty International yesterday, where they are saying that Nigeria is failing children in a horrifying manner. That was the title of the statement released by Amnesty International about 2 days ago. Now, they are concerned about the future of Nigerian children because they think that what this now marks is and they say, because yesterday we also had a conversation with the country director of Amnesty, they said they've conducted their investigations and they find out that when schools are shut down as a result of insecurity, particularly in many rural areas, that those schools rarely open up again. So for you as a CSO, is this something that you want to also keep an eye on with regards to the fact that schools have now been shut down in Kebbi and it's unsure when they will be open? Mr. Ngaski, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah.
Oh dear, it appears that we've lost the audio there for Mr. Ngaski. While we wait to see how we can re-establish connection. Mr. Nanugo, I appreciate all of the many connections that you have made with regards to... Okay, it does appear that Mr. Ngaski is back.
I can hear you.
Okay, Mr. Ngaski, I was just raising commentary about or questions about the statement that Amnesty International released about 2 days ago, raising concerns about the reopening of schools, because according to them, when they carried out investigations some time back, when schools are shut down as a result of insecurity, these schools rarely reopen again. Is this something that you want to keep an eye on in Kebbi to make sure that that is not the situation in the state, and that at some point these schools that have now been shut down as a result of insecurity are able to open again?
Yeah, I think the report from Amnesty International is apt, and then we, the civil society organization, like mentioned yesterday, we issued a release, and then with some recommendations regarding the shutdown of schools, maybe after the situation maybe subsided. So we recommended that apart from the shutdown, we want to know the time frame within which those schools will be reopened again, because this came at the time when our pupils or children about writing the end of term examination, and then the shutdown just happened. So we want to see the possibility. We'll be tracking, we'll be engaging with the government to see how possible is it for them to reopen the schools, and then when the situation improve. That is one. Then secondly, we're also looking at how can the government maybe map out those schools that are within the areas that are prone to attacks, maybe especially the boarding schools, if they could be relocated, to maybe to a more safer area environment, like maybe those in the remote areas, schools that are boardings, and then in the remote areas, maybe could be relocated down to cities. That could be like what happened in Biniauri, Federal Government College Biniauri. Federal Government College Biniauri is located within a remote area. But after the
Oh dear. Oh well, Mr. Ngaski, it does appear that we've lost you once more. So we're going to be going to Mr. Ononubo now to also, make sense, because you have spoken about the linkages between developmental indices, the unemployment, the fact that youths are not carried along, the fact that, unemployment has been a major, and a lack of patriotism because people are just simply trying to exist. People are concerned with existential matters, and I'm wondering really what the state has done for them. All of these connections are there. But as somebody who is also, how would I put it now? You are a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist. I'm sure that when you're listening to these conversations around what transpired in Kebbi, we see that it wasn't like as if there wasn't actionable intelligence from what we have heard so far. And people, every time these kinds of things happen, people always they always say, oh, there ought to have been intelligence. Our intelligence agencies need to sit up. We need to invest more in intelligence so that we can prevent things like this. But in this instance, we're hearing that there was intelligence, and it's poking serious confidence holes in our security architecture as to whether or not there was sabotage, whether or not there was betrayal. These are the questions that people are actually having in mind now. From your own analysis, how would you say that the Nigerian military, because the military clearly is where fingers are pointing, how do you think they need to handle this? Do you think that that statement saying that they are investigating these breaches, if there were any, are enough? Or do you think that they need to be more vehement in terms of what has now transpired?
Thank you very much, Mokbe. Let me say this. The military is the strength of any nation. And I don't believe that any career military officer would want history to remember him as a failure. This is my conviction. Now, there is also the issue of intelligence. Yes, gathering intelligence is one, but using the intelligence is another. And there are chains of authority that ensures that the tact, the process, and whatever it will take to execute whatever information being transmitted through intelligence hits its target. I'm beginning to imagine that, yes, the army might begin to look like the scapegoats, but there are dimensions of decisions that the army cannot take. There is the political angle, and we have seen situations where political interests override professional and critical considerations. That's where I have my problem. We need to identify the source of authority that drives these operations. Now, we are losing people. We are losing our soldiers. We are losing our children. We are losing our communities. The situation is dire. So we need to identify who drives this. Now, the military could have their best men. They didn't send them there to die. To come to think about it, that they captured an army general and eliminated him as if he had no worth is also a challenge. So there's a level of decision that the military cannot make in operational situations. There must be a political balance, and that is what we are not getting. There seems to be compromise at the political end in executing the well thought out strategies of the military. This is my position. And I believe that until we address it, what we are suffering from in Nigeria will not stop. We need to tackle this menace. There are few individuals, I believe, There are strategically placed people in our society that I believe are benefiting from this mayhem. And the government should allow the intelligence agencies to come forward, and I'm sure they have this information in their domain. I remember Commodore Kayode during an interview I had together with him sometime last year. He made it clear that all that is needed to address these issues had been known for a long time. The information, the intelligence is there, but we lack the political will. We have compromised the army, turning them into religious establishments. On Fridays, you see people trooping into our military establishments to pray. On Sunday, you see them dressed. When we have restrictions, there should be respect, there should be boundaries. And so long as we don't, we are cultivating and cross-fertilizing harm and danger. So we need to draw that line.
Well, it's an endless conversation, it will seem, because we've been talking about insecurity in our country and in various parts of it for a long time. Something important that you said, and I think the authorities should pay attention to, is that we cannot significantly fight insecurity where poverty is prevalent. I think that's a very important point to take away. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Alfred Ononubo is a forensic investigator and criminal intelligence specialist, CEO, Bell Protocol and Security Support Services, as well as fellow of the Chartered Institute of Forensic and Certified Fraud Investigators of Nigeria. Once again, we appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much, Ayo.
And that's Sunrise Daily this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day, and God bless Nigeria. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Well, we also have to thank Mr. Ibrahim Ngaski, who is the chairman coalition of Kebbi CSOs. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And thank you, viewers, for watching. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Business Morning is on top of the hour.